So I would like to close with a higher level question, okay, and somehow take an helicopter view. We're living in a world that actually, let's face it, we are like in the total middle of a climate crisis. Wars are, to the least happening. Inequalities are extremely growing. I was reading like the top 10 most rich people have a wealth that is equivalent to that of many, many countries put together. We have demography overpopulation. We have global power rebalance, just to name a few. So we live really honestly in a frightening context.
Yep.
So my question to you is, what is your vision about the evolution of business and of society in general in this context?
Well, I've thought long and hard about that, and I spent the last 5 years creating a movement called the Humanity Awareness Initiative, which is to create a new worldview and to teach children this worldview from the very beginning, but also re-educate adults and parents about this worldview. And this is a worldview that includes equality, includes equality in terms of how people are treated in a country, and also gender equality, etc., etc. Now, it's not surprising to me, anyhow, that the most advanced countries in terms of well-being are all run by women. New Zealand, most of the Scandinavian countries, they have I've measured all of this, they have the highest levels of well-being. And they're operating at what I call people awareness. And the one below that is wealth awareness, where most of the world is operating, or a lot of the world. Most of the world is much lower, actually. And we need to get to a new worldview, which I call Humanity Awareness Initiative, where the problems we're trying to solve at the national level, we can't solve them because they're global. So we have to solve them from the level of humanity. And that requires a new worldview. And that worldview is called Humanity Awareness. And if you want to read about that, go to humanityawarenessinitiative.org. That's a website, humanityawarenessinitiative.org. And then once you go to that website, you can read about it. And then you can click on the front page, the Humanity Awareness Initiative Learning Community, where you will find courses and information about how to live from this new worldview. And this is a project, a movement that I started in the last few years and really got up and running only six, 7 months ago. And I tell people, it's not a 2-year project, it's not a 5-year project, it's not a 10-year project, it's a 50-year project, because we're trying to change the culture in which people are, the worldview of how people are brought up in a particular nation. So, it is possible to create this world, but we have to get rid of these ego-driven leaders. And ego-driven systems. Like, we just got rid of Boris Johnson yesterday, ego-driven leader, okay? But the problem is the British Parliament. The problem is the system. It's not Boris Johnson. The problem is the system, where you have these two opposing groups sitting in a chamber, a large room, and they are disrespectful. They shout at each other. It's like bedlam. When you watch what's going on in Parliament, you say, this is a group of school children. They haven't grown up. They're trying to shout the loudest. They're trying to force other people. They just haven't got a clue. They're living in a worldview that says, we're better than you are, and we're going to put you down in order to be successful. In the British Parliament, most of what happens is probably true in Italy also. Most of what happens is about how we look better than the opposition. It's not about how can we work together to create a community or a nation which is the best in the world. No, we're not interested in working together. We're interested in being better than the other people. And we're interested in power. That's the problem. It's the system is the problem.
So how do you change the system?
Well, you've got to keep hammering away at it, and little by little, because if you look back in history, It was even worse 100 years ago. Women didn't even have the vote 100 years ago. You see, if you look back in history, you see a progression in consciousness. But it's slow. Yeah. It's slow. It's slow. It's slow. You got to keep hammering away at it, hammering away. Now, in the USA, it's going in reverse. It's actually going in reverse. Because the majority of the people living in the USA, sad to say, are not individuated. They're still trying to get their childhood needs met by shouting, by saying me, me, me. They haven't got a clue about how to live together, how to care for their common man, how to, I mean, it's probably one of the worst democratic countries on the planet. And it's not even really democratic, because the Economic Intelligence Unit describe it as a flawed democracy. I mean, if we're looking to America, forget it. We need to look to the Scandinavians. They are at the cutting edge. And even they are having some difficulties, but they're at the cutting edge. In New Zealand and Switzerland, they are the ones that are showing the way.
So are you hopeful?
Well, you know, am I hopeful for the next 10 years? Not particularly. Am I hopeful for 100 years? Absolutely. When I go back 100 years and to the present day, I can see fantastic changes. But it's slow. So we just have to keep plodding away at it.
Good. So let's stop our conversation like this. Richard, thank you very much.
All right, welcome.
And well, enjoy Tuscany.